Hello friends, this is Jim at J.D.SmokingPipes, and this is a VR response to James Pottsville Piper's video response to my first video, and I figured we'd do a little pipe talk on this one. A little housekeeping. I'm smoking one of my shop pipes, bent egg. This is the kind of pipe I like. It's anywhere from a quarter to a half bent. Tobacco chamber, roughly 1.5 by 3/4, and U-shaped at the bottom. And light, 1 ounce, maybe lighter, because I like to clench the pipe, especially when I'm working. I like to throw it in there and not to worry about it. So, in it, I'm smoking some Cornell and Deal Haunted Bookshop. Thought I'd change it up a little bit here in the shop, and I'm drinking some coffee. So let's get started. James posed some questions about cleaning pipes and having problems getting the pipe cleaner to pass through the pipe, reverse calabashes, and I've got some thoughts on that, and I got some visual aids to explain some of the things that are going on with those pipes. Should the pipe cleaner pass all the way through the tobacco chamber? In my opinion, yes. I think it's a very big deal. It's part of the engineering, and that's what I work on my pipes. When you have a problem, usually when you insert it from the button down into the shank, and it hits usually the bottom of the mortise. And I'm going to show you some things right now that I'm going to kind of explain this to you. Okay, here's your standard billiard. Real simple to follow the lines. You drill a mortise in the shank, your draft hole goes into the bottom of the bowl or tobacco chamber there, and it hits dead center in the bottom. A lot of people like straight pipes. They smoke drier generally, and that's because most of the time people aren't clenching them, and you don't have to worry about it building up. You have a straight shot with the smoke coming right through the chamber. Then you get into a little more of a freehand pipe. Now this one here I was doing and had to pull the plug on it because as you can see there's some serious blims in this one, so this one will become a shop pipe. But with this one here, it's got less than a quarter bent on this one here. And I was able to drill the mortise into the shank and drill the air hole straight to the bottom of the chamber. Okay, so this is drilled a lot like a billiard, so it's a lot easier to pass a pipe cleaner through a pipe like this one. Okay, as you get into your artisan pipes in different shapes, it becomes harder and harder. This pipe here is a blowfish. As you can see, the tobacco chamber comes down, the air chamber, the draft hole comes through into the bottom of the tobacco chamber, but it's not in line with the way the stem is drilled. The mortise is drilled into the back of the shank there, okay? For it to look correct when you're making a pipe like this, you want the stem to come out of the shank at the proper angle. Well, a lot of times when you do that, you can't drill it and use it for your draft hole because it'll come out the bottom of the pipe. It won't reach the bottom of the chamber, so you have to change it and tilt it a little bit and drill the draft hole at a little bit different angle to reach the bottom of the chamber. Okay, when that happens, I've got a couple other pipes that really show it. As you get into different shapes, like this one here is more like a Dunhill 120 gooseneck. Okay, this pipe here really shows it. Your stem angle is going to go straight down into the bottom of the bowl, and your air draft hole is going to go towards the bottom of the chamber. So you actually have to, when you're doing this, your drill bit comes in first, straight into it to drill the mortise, and then it turns a little bit, and then you drill it a second time, and that drills the air chamber, the draft hole, into the bottom of the tobacco chamber. Okay, It's just something that's inherent. It's going to happen with a bent pipe. The more bent it is, the more that's going to happen. Especially with half bent, 3/4 bent, and full bent pipes. This one here is going to be a freehand acorn. Okay. Now this is almost an umpal the way it's drilled. It's so steep. You can see how the stem angle goes straight down. But then I had to angle the draft hole to get to the bottom of the tobacco chamber. Okay. Where you're running into your problems is right at the bottom of the mortise. Okay. As a pipe maker, we try to hit the bottom of the mortise exactly where the air hole or draft hole is going to be going into the chamber. And more times than not, we hit it. It's going to be perfect. It'll go right in there and it'll pass the pipe cleaner no problem. Sometimes when you drill it, you'll look at it, it'll be perfect, but you don't like the length of the tenon. You figure it's going to be too short, you want the tenon a little bit longer. As you drill that tenon longer, it moves the draft hole higher up into the mortise. Okay, that way the draft hole and the mortise are not coming in perfectly in line. You're going to have the draft hole higher than where the mortise and the tenon come in, so that the air hole through the stem is going to actually miss it a little bit. It's going to be a little bit lower, so it won't pass a pipe cleaner. If that happens to me, I take a Dremel and I go inside at the bottom of the mortise, and I go ahead and I slope it. And by doing that, the bottom of the slope comes down to where the bottom of the air hole is drilled through the stem. So as the pipe cleaner goes down through that, it'll go right down into that ramp, hit the ramp, and go right into the tobacco chamber. Okay, that allows you to clean it out when you're smoking it. If for some reason the pipe you have wasn't done to it, and the holes don't match up, and I've seen some holes way up in the top of the mortise, and the tenon is a little bit shorter, so the smoke will actually transfer and go inside the mortise and then go up into the stem. It'll smoke okay when it does that, but the problem you have when that happens is condensation will get trapped in the bottom down there at the bottom of the mortise. Okay, and you're going to have a gurgle and a wet smoke. You can try pushing the pipe cleaner in there to the bottom of the mortise, and a little trick that I learned for that, some pipes, if you take your pipe cleaner, go to the very end of it, and just the very end of it, and put just a slight little bend in it, okay, so that it's bent. Start it down the stem at the button facing you, that bend facing you, and as you feed it down into it and you hit that mortise, push it. If it doesn't go through, pull it back a little bit, turn it a little bit, push it again. If it doesn't go through, pull it back, turn it away from you a little more, push it. And as you do that, you work it, and as you work in it, that little turn, that little bend there, let's see if I can get on camera. You can see how it's bent up just a little bit there. As you turn that and you're fishing it through there, sooner or later it's going to go through. It'll slide through. It's a pain. I hate that. If I had a pipe that did that, I'd come home, take a Dremel, and I'd slope it inside there. And then that way I wouldn't have to worry about it. It would go and just push right through. I feel as a pipe maker, I should be doing that. That's my job, not the pipe smoker. When you get a pipe like that, my pipes pass pipe cleaners. I take it upon myself to make sure my engineering's on and that it passes through there. Sometimes it gets missed by a pipe cleaner, or by pipe makers, and especially if you're rushing for a show or something happens, you're trying to get it done, you're trying to get all your pipes ready, you might miss one. It happens. So if you got a pipe that does that, you can take a Dremel or a small file, go in there, and you can go ahead and slope the hole inside the mortise so it slopes down towards the bottom of the mortise, towards the bottom of the shank. Be very careful of the top of the mortise while you're doing that, because you don't want to cut a hole or a groove in the top of the mortise, because it could affect the way the stem fits into, or the tenon fits into the mortise. So you want to be very careful with that. there is a trick if you have a pipe that smokes wet like that. It's called many different names, and I want to be politically correct, so we're going to call it the pipe flick, okay? You put your hand over the tobacco chamber so you don't lose any embers, okay? You take the pipe, you angle it so that the stem is going straight out, and you flip it right down to the ground, hanging onto the pipe tight so you don't lose it. By doing that, looking down, especially if you're on a cement floor or outside on the patio or something, you take and you flip the pipe like that, you'll see the condensation, saliva, juice, if you will, flick out of there onto the ground. You do that 2 or 3 times, pull it up, tamp it, make sure it's lit, going good, it'll smoke fine. You get another gurgle in it while you're doing it. You don't want to mess with the pipe cleaner, or you don't have any pipe cleaners. Cover the tobacco chamber with your hand, flick it down towards the ground. Just don't do it while you're inside the house, because it will stain the carpet. And if you're married, your significant other catches you doing something like that, they'll probably have a problem with it and chew you out. It's best done outside, in the garage, a shop, man cave. You know, you really don't want to be doing it on the floor in a pipe shop or inside the house. You can and probably will get chewed out for it. Been there, done that. Okay, so that's just a little trick. If you've got a pipe and you don't feel comfortable using a Dremel to slope that, that's okay. You know, you can always use the pipe flick. You can use a pipe cleaner in there, get as much as you can. If it's not good enough, cover the bowl, flick the pipe down so the button goes straight down towards the ground. Okay, so as you hold it up and you flick it, that motion that will get the moisture out. Okay, just make sure you cover the tobacco chamber. So hopefully that answers your question about why your pipe cleaners always get stuck down here towards the bottom of the shank. It's actually hitting the bottom of the mortise. The draft hole coming out of the tobacco chamber doesn't match up with the air chamber coming through the stem at the bottom of the mortise. They're off just a little bit. And so it hits the bottom of the mortise and it doesn't go up through the air hole. So that's one thing. Let's see, you covered a lot of things in that one. Reverse calabashes. Reverse calabashes are meant for it to break apart. It's meant for while you're smoking it, like a military mount stem, to come out while it's still hot and go back in. That's one reason why I love military mount stems. If I've got a problem with it, I can pop it out while I'm smoking it. I don't have to worry about it. I get it close to being in there, just a quarter turn with just a little bit of pressure. You don't have to push it really deep inside there. You don't want to split the shank. Just a little bit of pressure, push it back in, and it's ready to go. Same thing on a reverse calabash. Most of them you can take and you can work it back and forth and it'll pop out. You can take a pipe cleaner, bend it in half, put it in there, swab out the moisture, pop the stem back in. So reverse calabash, there's usually no problems with pulling it apart. That's what they're made for. It's supposed to smoke cooler, and that chamber catches condensation, and you've got to be able to clean that out. So that's no problem. Let's see, couple more tricks. Say you got a pipe and for some reason it's super tight. You can't get the stem all the way in, okay? You've got it close, but it won't go all the way in. It's super tight. And I'm not talking about when the pipe is hot. If you're smoking it and the pipe is hot and you pull it apart to clean it for some reason, do not put that stem back in there. Clean it all out, let it sit for 2 or 3 days, screw your stem in, okay? If you, for some reason, take a flush fit stem out of the shank and the pipe is hot, don't ram it back in there, because 2 things can happen when you're doing that, okay? When you're smoking, everything heats up, everything gets a lot tighter. When you go to put that in there like that and everything's hot, or you've just smoked it and you dumped out the ash and you're cleaning it, you can either break off the tenon because it's just too tight for it to go all the way in, or worse yet, you ram that in there and you split that shank. At that point, you're hosed. You're going to have to send it to a professional, have them put a silver or nickel band on that to keep it together. And hopefully the crack's not too bad. If the crack is real bad, they might have to try and epoxy or glue it after they put the band on there and refinish it. and that adds up real quick money-wise because it's a lot of work to do that. If the pipe's worth saving, if the pipe's not worth saving, then you can just chuck it. But that's one reason why you don't want to break a pipe to clean it, especially while it's hot. Best thing to do is run it, pipe cleaner through the button, down into the tobacco chamber a couple of times, clean out as much as you can. Sometimes the draft hole is drilled larger than the hole through the stem. So you feel that you can't get the pipe cleaner. If you're using a regular pipe cleaner, it doesn't really clean it. I use tapered cleaners for that specific reason. You can use the thin end, go through first, clean out the stem, flip it over, take the thicker, fluffier end, run it through, go all the way down, and it gets more out of the shank when it goes through. Some pipes are drilled wide open, the button's wide open. You can use the real fluffy pipe cleaners and go all the way through, and that helps clean it out. Some pipes, the tenon is short in the shank. It happens. I've seen some pipes with a good 1/8 to 1/4 inch spacing between the end of the tenon and the end of the mortise. When that happens, two things are going to happen to you. One, it's going to smoke wet, and two is you're going to get a gunk in there. Best thing to do is run your pipe cleaner through and have it pass through. Clean it the best you can. Smoke it 2, 3, 4 times before you break it, and make sure your pipe is cold. It's been sitting for 3 days before you break it or pull the stem out of it and clean that pipe, and fold the pipe cleaner in half and really get that gunk and stuff out of there. If you don't, it's going to really build up inside there, and if you wait 20 to 30 bowls, it's going to be real nasty to try and clean it out. You're better off doing it every 3 to 5 smokes. So that's another thing. But sorry, got off topic. Tenon's real tight in the mortise. Can't get it to go all the way back in. You got your new pipe, you're all excited about it. It seemed to be fine at first. You smoked it a few times, and then all of a sudden now it's winter time and it's a lot more moisture in the air. Everything is really super tight. You can actually take a pencil and let's see if I can find my pencil here. You can take a pencil, sharpen pencil, and start coloring on the tenon. Okay, what you're doing there is you're putting carbon from the lead of the pencil onto the shank, or excuse me, onto the tenon. Okay, get a good coating on there, and you might have to do it 2 or 3 times, but then you take it and you screw it on there, and look at how easy it goes in now. Before, I couldn't even come close to getting that halfway in. I put a little lead on it from a pencil, that carbon gets on there, screwed right in, no problem. It's a natural lubricant. So that's another little tip, okay? Don't do it when your pipe is hot, okay? Bad things happen when your pipe is hot. If you're smoking it or you just smoked it and you have a flush fit stem and you try and shove it back in there, don't use that pencil trick to get it to go back in there all the way because you pulled it apart. You know, let it cool down for a day or two before you try and put that back in there. You don't want to split that shank. I've seen some pipes that's happened to, and I've fixed a few of them, and it's not pretty. So one quick thing I want to touch on, when you're looking at buying a pipe, check the finish out on the pipe. Is it smooth? Is it sandblasted? Is it rusticated? What does the pipe maker use to finish that pipe off? Is he just buffing and waxing it, or is he putting on a sandblasted pipe, is he putting powdered wax on there and hitting it with a heat gun and melting it on there, letting it cool, and then waxing it to make it shiny so that you can re-wax the pipe? Is he using a light coat of shellac? Is he using an oil type finish? These are things you really want to know before you buy a pipe, and pipe makers usually use the same kind of finishes over and over. It works for them. Find out what they're using, because this can affect how the pipe smokes. Is it smoking hot or is it smoking cool? The one you want to stay away from is the big L word, lacquer. I don't want to use any pipe companies by name, but some of the production pipe companies that are making machine-made pipes use lacquer in their pipes, especially the smooths and even on the sandblasts. But when they use lacquer on the pipe, it seals all the pores, and it's going to smoke hotter. And I know that from experience. played around with a lot of different pipes, a lot of different finishes, and smoked them, cut them open, looked at them. Lacquer is really not your friend, okay? Shellac is not bad. On some pipes, if I do a sandblast and it's black, usually I'll put shellac on there. If I wax it, it looks cloudy, it doesn't look real shiny, it doesn't look quite right. I'll throw one light coat of shellac on there and then I'll make it nice. Shellac is a natural finish. It's still, with a light coat of it on there, it still allows the briar to breathe, okay? So that's okay if it has, but if you're gonna put 2, 3, 4 coats of shellac on there and just cake the hell out of it so it looks real shiny, not good. The more you put on there, the worse it's gonna be for smoking quality. It's gonna get hot. Excuse me. Okay. I try, well, all of my smooths, I just buff them, I wax them, and dry buff them. So it's a natural finish, and you can hit them with a buffer, and you can go ahead and brighten it up. No problem. On most of my sandblasts, I put a wax finish on them. I usually put a powdered carnauba wax on there, and I'll go ahead and I'll melt it with the heat gun, cool the pipe down, and then go ahead and buff it up so it looks pretty shiny. And if it goes, this one here was waxed, and it was waxed 2 years ago, and I haven't waxed it since, and it's still pretty shiny, and it's keeping its coat up pretty good. But with the wax, you can wax it back up, you can buff it back up, and it'll look nice. If you have a real craggy pipe and it's got a wax finish on it, and you take it to your local shop, be very careful. If you ask them to clean it up and tell them you want it buffed up and waxed, if they hit that with a buffer, it'll knock all the edges off of it, and it'll change the whole texture of the pipe. Could strip the finish off of it, strip the stain out of it. So if you've got one that's just waxed and it's sandblasted or rusticated, take a very soft toothbrush, extra soft toothbrush, and just sit there and polish it with that toothbrush. And that'll bring the luster back to it and shine it back up. First of all, you wipe it off, make sure it's cold, you haven't smoked it and you're doing it. You got a cold pipe, you wipe it down, make sure it's clean, take a toothbrush that's extra soft and just polish it up. And after a short while, it'll get its luster back and it'll look nice, okay? These are just a few of the little tricks. I'm already up to almost 23 minutes here, so I hope this answered your questions. I'm sure you're gonna have a lot more questions, so just shoot me a VR and let me know what your questions are. If I don't know the answer, I'll talk to my friends that are at the local brick and mortar and get some questions answered from them, or I'll talk to other pipe makers and we'll figure it out. But thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. If you lasted this long, God bless you. Thank you, and stay smoky, everybody.